Hey, greetings everybody. This is Thunder Hands, Roger Thunder Hands Gilbert. My friends call me Thunder, and this is the third show in a series called Thunder Speaks. And today we're going to speak on what I call Doublespeak and Double Lies. That's the name of the show today. Now, these terms come from a famous author by the name of George Orwell. Pictured on the screen here is his novel, kind of an older copy, older version. And the name of the novel is 1984, about a utopian society. And he uses words like doublespeak and doublethink, and I just wanted to explain a little bit about what those meant so that you could recognize what I call speaking with a forked tongue, or just basically outright lies. Now, doublespeak is a way to use a word for another word that seems the same but has a different meaning. It's kind of almost, well, it is a form of trickery. And an example of some of these words would be like substituting the word propaganda for free speech, or lately I've noticed they've changed the word whistleblower to leaker, okay, because they want whistleblower has like good connotations and leaker has bad connotations. Or they might want to make things seem more palatable, so they'll use a word like instead of we are going to war, they'll say we are going to achieve peace. It's very insidious. It's basically it is mind manipulation. Now, I was watching a press conference, I think it was, about maybe a week ago, or it could have been 2 weeks ago, about this Snowden thing. And I'm sure you're all aware of Ed Snowden, the guy that was a whistleblower on the NSA thing, who took asylum in Russia and now has been given asylum. But at the time of the press conference, they were trying to put a bad spin on his whole situation and his, what he was. And at the time, he had given a press conference because he was holed up in the airport, and so he called in all these human rights people, and he had, he spoke, and they spoke for him, and the press people for the president, the White House, got all upset because he actually got to speak his mind. And so, they were saying, we don't appreciate that President Putin of Russia gave him a platform for what they called quote unquote propaganda. Well, one of the astute reporters in the pool out there started grilling her cheese and asking her questions about, what do you mean propaganda? Isn't this basically called free speech? I mean, he kept repeating that over and over, and she kept trying to dodge the issue, dodge the questions. He goes, he hasn't been convicted of anything yet, and he is an American citizen, and he does have a right to speak freely until he is convicted, or he has a right to speak freely anyway. So why are you calling this propaganda? Well, she couldn't really answer that question. She just kept saying over and over again that, that he was bad, and that he was, committing crimes against the United States, and, felonies, and, espionage and all this stuff. But she really couldn't answer that question. So there's a perfect example of how they switch words and meanings and inferences, let's say. So that was, they were calling him a whistleblower, and 53% of Americans, when polled, think that this man was a whistleblower. But no, they have to change that perception. So now that the word has become leaker. I mean, I don't really even think there's such a word as leaker. I may be wrong, but I tried looking it up. And yes, leaks or leaking, but leaker, they come up with stuff. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, there's a perfect example of speaking with a forked tongue and lying and just trying to misdirect you. And they do this all the time. I mean, this is something they do all the time. They use all kinds of different words for different things. Okay, so I've given some examples, so I think you get the drift of what I'm saying. But pretty soon when they start doing this, there's like two words for one thing. It's almost like politically correct. It's almost like when you say handicapped or, crippled, I mean, one is more descriptive than the other. They try to soften things, they try to harden things, they do all kinds of things with this doublespeak, and then pretty soon you start getting into this doublethink, which means you start second guessing yourself. Well, what does that word mean? What does this mean? Well, maybe this is so, maybe this isn't so. And this gets into that, what I was talking about before, about confusion. Mass confusion and chaos. And this is the way they do it. And they mess with your mind. They mess with it big time until you don't know whether you're coming or going or what's right or what's wrong or and then another word that they like to mess with is this word terror. And I want to talk about that because that has to do with fear. And that's what I was talking about, that we want to stay away from fear. And so terror, by definition, and there's, there's about 100 definitions for terror. Believe it or not, there are many, many definitions for terror. And terror can be accomplished in any number of ways. It could be accomplished by some kind of physical act, like say 9/11, or any kind of event that strikes fear into people's hearts. Or it can be accomplished by, not a physical act, but an act of psychological act, a psychological act. Like just using the word terror all the time, like the government does, to make you feel fear and feel like you need to be protected. Just using that word is striking fear. And so what are they doing to you? What is that? That is an act of terrorism in itself. They're terrorizing you with the word terror. I mean, you got to laugh about that. You really do, because if you didn't, you would cry. I mean, it's so obvious. And they came up with this word terror, and they base everything that they do that's illegal and an erosion of our Bill of Rights and our Constitution, which really, as a Native American, I don't think too much of anyway, but that's the system we live under. This terrorism word is a lot like the word savage that they used back when they were conquering America, or Turtle Island as the natives call it. But they called us savages because that suited their needs, and that struck terror into the hearts of the settlers that were coming in and turned them against the natives instead of reaching out to them. So this word terrorism is just BS, okay? There is no terrorism. You are more likely to die by your couch falling on your head or getting struck by lightning than you are by getting killed by some quote unquote terrorist. If anybody is a terrorist, it's the U.S. government, okay? Because they are using that word, again, like I said before, to terrorize people and to commit acts that are outside the realm. I mean, we're talking assassinations. We're talking, you know, drone strikes, and oh, they closed down the embassies recently because, I could see right through that. I mean, couldn't everybody? I mean, here you have a big NSA scandal about privacy and all that, and the government saying, oh, we need this because terrorism, and then what do? A week later, they shut down all the embassies because of some threat or supposed threat. And then they say they heard it on a conference call. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up, which is exactly what they're doing. So that's a little bit about, what I wanted to talk about. Doublespeak, double lies, doublethink, getting you confused. Just laying all this stuff on your head that you want to steer clear of. And so I'm just giving you some insight as to what to steer clear of. And, I'll mix these shows up. My next one will be try to be a little bit more positive, but it's always good to let people know, in case they don't know, about what's going on. So I hope that you take this into consideration about, what's going on around you, but then don't give it too much power. Just learn about it, take it into consideration, and then get on with your life. Don't dwell on things that are negative, but just be aware, because a spiritual warrior is aware, but then yet he's not aware, if you know what I mean. I mean, he can turn it off and turn it on. Once you know, you know. I mean, things are bad in the world, let's face it, and you're not going to change the world. I mean, the world is what it is, so you're not going to go out there and change it with a wave of a magic feather or wand or sage or anything. You can pray, you can hope that it changes, but I don't think the world could get much worse than it is right now, so why dwell on it? Why dwell on it? Why not live life like it's a journey? And that will be my next show that I want to talk about, the journey, and that's a little bit more comforting, and hopefully people will be able to get a little relief from that show. So I'm looking forward to doing that show, but I felt like I needed to do this show. Okay, so now I'd like to show you a little bit more about me and what I do. And I wanted to show you my webpage here, spiritofcrazyhorse.com. That's all one word, www.spiritofcrazyhorse.com. And so I'm going to kind of scroll or show you a little bit more about www.spiritofcrazyhorse, all one word.com. And as I scroll down here, you'll see the picture here, and then there's a bio of me here that you can read a little bit about who I am, what I do. And I have books out, Thunder in the Wind, Listen to the Wind, Speak from the Heart, and Emergence. Now, Listen to the Wind, Speak from the Heart is the major book that's out by a major publisher worldwide. And that book is a book that will help you get through life. And I suggest, if you can, to get that book, and that would help me out with my purpose. And you can go, click on the links here, Amazon, Divine Arts Media, who is the publisher, and you can do that. And then also on my website is a button up here for donations, and I couldn't do this show without you, and I appreciate the donations that have been coming in. And then here is a link to my seminars. This is a link here to a newsletter that you can fill out so that you will receive a newsletter. So time's running out.